For those of you watching out there in the world, we just opened up this Zoom. We will give everyone about 2 minutes to join us, and then we will begin. We are literally in 4 different countries at the moment, so hopefully everything works out just fine technologically. As those of you who are already signed in, please know that this is the second session in the Harare Virtual Dialogues that we've created between the CTG Collective, Dzimbanhete Arts and Culture Interactions, and Goethe Institute Harare. And if you'd like to watch the first session, which was about the future project that we're about to come to Zimbabwe with and build in collaboration with Dzimbanhete Arts and Culture Interactions, there's a link on Instagram, on Facebook, on the collective website, on Dzimbanhete's Facebook, so it's all there for you to see. And we'll give everyone another maybe 30 seconds. And I'll introduce our wonderful speakers for session 2. We've never been so timely. So today's talk is called Building Space as a Meeting Point. My name is Catinca Tabacaru. I have a gallery which I started in New York in 2014. I'm also co-founder of the CTG Collective with Rachel Monosov, who is an artist and curator and a co-founder of the collective and currently our speaker. And Chikonzero Chazunguza. Chiko, I messed it up. I didn't mess it up. I got it. Chiko is our dear partner in Harare. He has been with us with the collective, or maybe we've been with him. Who knows what came first, since 2015. And we've all been working together in Harare with Dzimbanhete and the collective since 2015. And today what we'd like to do, and what I'd like to do, is invite our 2 speakers, Rachel and Chiko, to take us through how space is built as a meeting point and how their experiences over the last, at this point, 2 decades have gotten us to the point today. So I'd like to invite Chiko to begin, and I will also begin by sharing my screen so that we have a few visuals for everyone attending who maybe have not seen what has been going on in Harare since 2 decades ago.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Catinca, as the collective, not as the person, as the collective, for organizing this talk. We've pretty gone through a long journey together, which has been quite beneficial to both of our communities, both our collectives. And yeah, well, hopefully my image is kind of okay out there. I'm actually sitting out in a car, the best place I can actually have network so we can talk. And I've done a bit of lighting. So hopefully I'm not looking like a mafia guy sitting in his couch or something. No, it's not my intent. It's also quite cold in Harare, so I have my jacket on. Okay, so I will just briefly tell people about Dzimbanhete Arts and Culture Interactions, where we started and how things have been moving up to when we met CTG Collective and where we are right now. It's a long journey. It's the establishment of Dzimbanhete Arts and Culture Interactions is a long journey, a journey that starts with basically me being an artist and teaching and having taught formally in institutions that are educational institutions like the Harare Polytechnic, the University of Zimbabwe, Chino University of Technology. All these are in Harare, including Ziva, Zimbabwe Institute of Digital Arts. And during those years of my teaching, I realized there was something missing, primarily within the theory of art and art history. Art history in general and across the board, it's not really looked into as a history that represents people, represents the world over, but it's normally European art history. So that teaching of art history as European art history, for me, it didn't really work well. I taught for years and I had a bit of frustration about that, trying to find ways of changing the curriculum and the syllabus that was in these colleges and universities to see how we could involve African art itself and culture, elements which I thought were very vital to students of art. To a certain extent, it kind of worked. Some changes happened, but not fully. So then I decided to leave the institutions, and the idea was to create a space that would actually cater for that which wasn't in the institutions. And Dzimbanhete came about. I hooked up with some friends who were actually in the technical world, like some were technicians, marine technicians, mechanics, but they all had a passion for culture. And it was culture that I was looking for to kind of bring into our art world. So Dzimbanhete was created primarily based on that. So we founded Dzimbanhete, and initially it was informal. When I left the institutions, some of my students, my former students, followed. They came to my place. This was at my house primarily. This was at a place that I dwelled together with my other colleagues. And we then started mentoring these students. We started mentoring these young artists who had come to stay with us for some time. Again, it was like really staying as a family. And there were discussions about culture. There were discussions about our history, our narratives, things that my other two colleagues were very good at. And so we formalized our workshops. We started having artist workshops where we were teaching my passion, which is printmaking. And we did printmaking workshops for a while. We also went on to do casting workshops, things that my other two colleagues were good at. We went on to organize residencies in the art world, and inviting artists from the region and artists from even from Europe, coming on to work with artists, our local artists. That went on for quite a while, and we became like a renowned center in terms of our mentorship programs and our workshops. As it turned out, some of our mentees went on to represent the country and platforms like the Venice Biennial and other platforms and other exhibitions. And it was, I think, through their participation in those platforms that we also gained popularity from other galleries, from other curators, including Catinca herself, who I think went to the Venice Biennale and saw a consistent kind of approach that the curator at that time, Mr. Raphael Chikukwa, mentioned to her that the product was coming from Dzimbanhete, and our friendship started. She decided to visit with a crew, and we gelled in. We became like a family up to until now. So things have been working out very well in that regard. And as Dzimbanhete, now we also realized we needed now, we were using culture and the historical narratives to inform artists and to kind of excite their creativity. Then we decided to bring in culture also as an entity in Dzimbanhete. So from Dzimbanhete Arts Interactions, we rebranded to Dzimbanhete Arts and Culture Interactions. And with Arts and Culture Interactions, that's when we started like bringing in what we felt was like a cultural platform that carried narratives of ourselves from way back. And that cultural platform was music, was Mbira music. So we started working with Mbira musicians, getting to understand also the narratives that go with Mbira. That evolved, and from small concerts, we ended up with a big concert that was like 30 Mbira groups playing for 36 hours. That was like our peak point in terms of promoting Mbira and also getting information from the Mbira players themselves. From there, we wanted to do, we had done 30. That was huge. That was a big festival. And we then wanted to see how we could include other African countries who also have the same Mbira. And with the connections, because through art, we had actually made connections in the region and on the continent. So we started working towards how we could bring in Mbira from all the parts of Africa. And we realized, well, bringing in Mbira alone would not be enough. Once we bring in Mbira and Mbira players and the concepts of Mbira in other countries, we would be talking about culture in general. And so we decided, the idea evolved into wanting to create a platform where if these cultural practitioners would bring in their wares and their stories, where would they be displayed? So the idea of the All Afrika Village came up, that we were going to create a village, a one-stop African village, a village that would represent all the African cultures, basically. Not all, but the main ones in each country. We would build huts, would build the domains on which they would be, the cultures will be showcased. So the All Afrika Village came about, and we started constructing villages. And on this construction, we initially at the old venue, we then moved to a new venue. But at the old venue, we did some research and we started constructing. But we also realized that we could not be masters of all cultures. So we decided we would actually raise funds and bring in people from those very cultures, like cultural technicians, who would come in and instruct us on how to build their homesteads, instruct us on why they build the way they build, the materiality, the concepts around the structures themselves. If we have time, I'll tell you more about some of the concepts which are really interesting, that structures are not just structures, but they have other meanings as well. So that's what we've been learning, and that's what we've been doing so far. With the structures that we currently have on the ground, which are we have a representation of the Igbo compound, we have the Zezuru, Zimbabwe, Ndau, Ndebele, Tonga, Doma. We also have Namibia. We also have Botswana being represented. And with this structure standing, there are lots of other activities that do happen at the village. Some of the continuous ones with being schools, bringing their students to the village. We are now in a very modernized, urbanized society, and some of the kids growing up do not have an idea of the life in the village or the narratives that you get in the villages. So this platform we've created is actually come in handy in terms of educating the youth, educating the kids on what their culture and their stories are all about. We've also, the image there, thank you for that image, Catinca. That's an image of a festival that just ended last year. It was delayed by COVID, but so it went for longer than it was supposed to. But this was a festival of cultures where the Nigerian culture, the Igbo culture, whose structures we've already built, was represented. We had South African cultures represented, Malawian cultures, Botswana cultures, and Namibian cultures represented at this festival. And this is what we hope to be doing on this side, while at the same time building up again our capacity, as we had done before, to be mentoring artists, to be doing workshops with artists and residencies with our global friends. These workshops and residencies particularly in the art world, in the art field. It really started coming up, I think before, was it before or after? But I know we've had Detroit School of Design. They've come to Zimbabwe primarily to work with Dzimbanhete, understanding the cultures that we are putting forward, and also learning some of the techniques within the creative art world that we teach here. We've also have a school, Stellenbosch, South Africa, based in South Africa. They've also come again to learn more from what we're doing as well. Not necessarily just the visual arts, but the other element of culture we've brought in has been of great interest to institutions that deal with visual arts and design. I could go on and on, but I think for now, I'll leave it for the general talk later.
I think, well, that's a perfect place to interject, because this is where Rachel and myself, and at the time, also Justin Orvestimer, Xavier Robles de Medina, and Raphael Gilbert came in, and this was 2015. And this was as Dzimbanhete had built at the time, I believe, 7 huts, traditional huts from 4 different backgrounds. That first year, we didn't stay in them, but the second year we did. And so we were able to experience firsthand these traditional structures and live all within the same space. So I invite Rachel now to tell us about how we landed in Zimbabwe.
How we landed? This is yeah, I think we should start a bit before of the idea of CTG Collective and how we later traveled to Zimbabwe all together. Basically, together with Catinca, which is a gallerist and a dealer. She's very close to her artist. She's very close to me. We always had the desire to travel, to learn about culture, to learn about other artists, to see different creations. And I was doing a lot of residencies at the time, and we got the idea of why we don't start a residency of our own, but we didn't have a space, and we didn't want to create a space, a physical space at the time. And we thought, okay, we'd be sort of traveling residency, and CTG Collective really come from the desire to create worlds collective, to just gather artists from different countries, wherever we can get and go and meet and talk and work and make things together, which for me as an artist is so inspiring, and I wish to do it just all the time. I think, Catinca, you went to the Venice Biennale, right? And you met Rafael Chikukwa, and you sort of called me from the Biennale, from Venice, and said, okay, we're going to Zimbabwe. So
I was so excited to find the Zimbabwe Pavilion. And it was actually my first year, and I remembered it from 2013 when I'd first gone to Venice, and I just had fallen in love with Virginia Chihota's work in the pavilion. And then I was so excited to go back in 2015. And Rachel and I had been having these conversations about how do we transform the meaning of an artist studio? How do we present work in alternative spaces? How do we be more than a gallery and more than an artist? And the light really went on when I saw Raphael and had all this excitement and kind of inside of me, and released it all upon him, the poor man. And he just looked at me, he's like, you know, I know how to help. And I know if you really want to come to Zimbabwe, I know the perfect person. And he sent us to Chiko. And it wasn't very long afterwards that Chiko and I started talking and had a conversation that looked much like this, where I was in a summer shirt and Chiko was in this big, I remember him, this big bundle jacket with a scarf on.
At 30 degrees.
And it was such a stark kind of representation of this upside down world a little bit. And so we embarked on the flight and expected that upside down world. And this is where I'm going to show you a few pictures, because once we arrived, we so quickly became that family. From that first conversation that we had, we realized how many of the pursuits we all had in common. And it was so easy to quickly jump into collaborations, jump into making work. The community all around Dzimbanhete is so creative from so many points of view, from music to art to medicine to spirit, that we kind of learned everything through osmosis and were able to create. And I will share my screen again so we can show you all what it looked like at the beginning. Here we are. This was the first meeting. So my memory of that first meeting was us really kind of sitting in the circle, and I think everyone had so many expectations, you know, on all the sides. There were artists in the meeting, there were curators. We had only just met Chiko, and Chiko had essentially invited the whole contemporary art community to join us, and everyone just started talking. And I think this almost like euphoric feeling came around as the realization came that something really, really amazing could happen over this month that we planned to spend there. And we were all living together and spending pretty much every minute together. And then the collaboration started happening. So we had projects being done by, this is a Justin Orvis Steimer collaboration with Admire Kamudzengerere. Admire soon afterwards ended up going to the Venice Biennial. This was also there. We don't want to share too many images, but the whole community was involved in this project that the two artists rolled this paper across a 4-kilometer distance. And kids would come out and artists would come out and contribute to what ended up being this kind of enormous artwork. And this was Rachel's first big community project called the Pink Village, where it took the entire residency to make it happen. And this was Raphael, kind of was the spark that brought us there. And so we spent this month, and I don't know, Rachel, if you want to share as an artist, sort of the key factors for you of that first month spent.
I think the first photo when we been sitting in a circle was quite a very important moment of sharing the ideas and concepts that we work around. I think this was such a tremendous exchange. I remember Sabina, Chiko's wife, was there also talking about her artistic practice as a fashion designer, and like everybody was talking about what interests them in their creation and what they work with. And I think this was sort of almost a studio visit to conceptually to everyone practice, which was very interesting and inspiring first jumping point. And I remember Admire was presenting himself and his work, and I immediately was so curious about his practice, which ended up later in almost 5 years of collaborations all over the world. So yeah, it was quite very simple meeting, but in some sense very significant for I think for all of us. Also in terms of, just to touch again about Dzimbanhete, to go, it's 1 hour from Harare. How I don't remember I remember the drive. It's very scary, but but I don't remember how far it is in terms of how many cars.
25 minutes.
It feels like it feels like with the crazy traffic, it feels like an hour. But how much we learned there about the culture, about Zimbabwe. I think this is a gift to everyone that arrived there to, you can travel to different countries but it's not easy to get to essence of things. Of course, you need to spend a lot of time, and we spend weeks and months and years there eventually, which is also necessary. But I think to have the space, as Chiko said, for learning about the music and art and the culture and the trees and the animals and everything that related to this land and the ancestors was so special and significant. So if anyone listening and planning to travel to Zimbabwe, you have to meet Chiko.
This was essentially our pilot program, right? So together, Dzimbanhete and the CTG Collective created this month-long concept. And we learned a lot from it. We learned from how you come together in the first meeting to then how you spend a few days with everyone presenting their work so that the conversations afterwards can be built around an understanding of each artist. And then it actually ended up in an experience which was also incredible, that the National Gallery of Zimbabwe invited us to come back and curate a show based on that residency. And this is exactly what we did. We came back in 2016, and this is when we lived in the Afrika Village at the time. And so we're all there together, and as a group of the foreign artists, the Zimbabwe-based artists, everyone built the show that ended up being a success, according to all. And since 2015, the CTG Collective has continued to build these residencies. So we ended up in Finland at the Sirlachius Museums, where we were invited to do a program and then to also build an exhibition for the museum. And you might see some familiar faces in these photographs. So Zimbabwe and the Zimbabwean artists really became part of the collective, just like CTG Collective and Dzimbanhete remain partners. And in this case, we had 3 Finnish artists join us as well. Finland was interesting. We thought a lot about migration in Finland, and this was the final exhibition. Nigeria was a really interesting project that was actually built by Raphael Gilbert, who's with us here as well, in collaboration with H Factor and 16 by 16 residency. So there we went as a collaboration with a space, as well as another residency. And Terence Musekiwa was the primary artist at the time. He built an exhibition as well as a workshop. And they did a lot of traveling in this one. One of the lessons we've learned is that when a residency is smaller, it's easier to travel further in a country versus the other way around, when you're really more within the space that you're building and the traveling is happening between people versus across space. Bucharest has been our newest location, and it's also the location of the gallery. So last year, Xavier Robles de Medina was invited by another mobile gallery to come in and do an exhibition, and we tied a residency to it. So Xavier was here to build this enormous piece that you see as a sculpture that was presented with another mobile gallery. So one of the things that you will see throughout this entire experience that you're watching is that everything is collaborative. Rachel and I had this idea, but everything else is really born from our conversations with our partners, our meetings with the communities around us and with the other artists. That was another big lesson that we learned. Newfoundland was a really beautiful project where actually each artist built a structure. This one is Rachel's. Yapsi built with a collaborative project with Rachel. This is Yapsi Ramos. But we were quite isolated. And so it was a very different experience. Terence was here as well. And it was a very different experience than when we're at Dzimbanhete, surrounded by a community and surrounded by a lot of other artists. And there's value in each, but I think being with a bigger community of artists around seemed to build more, a richer experience in general.
Well, a lot of arguments, Chiko, no?
Makes things work.
So then in in 2017, again, so this is for the third year in a row, we go back to Zimbabwe. And ahead of time, this time we're a lot more prepared than the first time. The first time we kind of came in and experienced. The second time, we were all three of us were talking quite a bit and had already been planning to build a space. And so Rachel began designing the space.
I would love to hear from Chiko what he thought about the proposal in the first moment. This monumental concrete.
Well, I don't know what to expect, but it was a box, right? It was a box, rather too tall. It was okay, but the thing that kept like twisting my mind was like the slope, that gradient on top, that roof. I expected the things to be going the other way. So in my mind, I kept like wondering why the slope was going the way it was going. I expected the circle to be on the higher wall rather than the shorter wall. But then I got used to it. I got used to it. Aesthetically, for me, I kept fighting. I kept thinking the circle should be on the other side. But then when you came and when you kept talking, it was like, for you, it sounded very natural to be on the other side. So I said, okay, so it's fine. I'll live with it. I'll live with the twist. Now I'm used to it.
Yeah. I think this was so basically I'm not an architect at all. Maybe this is about Chiko comment.
Neither am
I. I'm more conceptual artist, so everything I do started from an idea. And since we collaborated a lot with Dzimbanhete and we created non-spaces. We've been working everywhere in the world. We thought together maybe to create a physical space for the first time with Catinca and Chiko, and to have a space for this collaboration to be exhibited. So basically we started thinking about the idea to make a gallery in Zimbabwe. I was working at the time in SketchUp, which is a very lame program, which I think not every architect will tell you never touch SketchUp. Don't use this program. But I was designing a lot of structures. I'm quite addicted to this program in some sense, and I'm designing houses, which I could never afford to have, and exhibition spaces, and the gallery was one of the designs I was practicing. There was no practical plan of how to make it yet. There was just this drawing, which there was a drawing a bit more complex than this, and then slowly Catinca came in and said, let's make something that will be possible to actually build in a very short time.
We were definitely very excited about this sense of spirituality. And right when we were looking at it, I remember thinking 5 by 5 by 5. And this is what the gallery ended up being built as, 5 meters by 5 meters by 5 meters. Hence Chiko's comment that it was so tall. And it ended up with one of the things that happens in construction is we made an aesthetic choice. Rachel came in one day as the walls had been coming up, and we were getting up to kind of the top windows that we'll show you in a second. That would have been like the windows up here. And they were supposed to be straight across the back. And Rachel said, no, let's put them on the corner. And Chiko and I look at each other, we're like, yes, okay, well, she's the eye. And so we put them on the corner, which of course, as we continue to build up, we realized that the gallery has to get even taller in order to accommodate that corner and the slope. So I think we ended up being about 5 by 5 by 5.8 or so. But then the journey began, and we went from the sketch to the incredible search for materials. Chiko was the lead of this, and Admire Kamudzengerere was also a big part of this, of finding the farm-made bricks, finding the pit sand that we would use. And we were very committed to, for the gallery, while its structure felt very out of place, its materials were purely from the land. And I think Chiko did a lot of negotiation with the bricks. We ended up using quite a few of them. I don't know if you remember how many, Chiko. I don't.
I can't remember.
A lot. We did double row. We were very determined for the structure to be very strong. And so we're talking about a gallery that is located about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the time of year, off the main road. And you really drive to it. And as you drive to it, you're kind of everything around you empties, and you end up being in this very serene space. And so we move forward. We selected the space, the positioning, and of course, as destiny would have it, and as we were building, not soon afterwards, Dzimbanhete also moved to this new land. And as we were building the gallery, the residency was happening all around us. So you see here, Rachel and Admire making a work that ended up being called 1972, based in their archival research of Zimbabwe's past, that actually in the end ended up going to quite a few biennials and museums and museum collections, and looked like this in its final form. So life imitates art and art imitates life. Yes.
Yeah, I think if you go back to this photo, the black and white of the final, what's happening, the construction took place. So, but me and Admire came in and posed. So it's really half documentary and half composed images, which you see in the final work. So it's not spontaneous in terms of me and Admire. And so it almost was like a performing inside of the construction. So we acted in a performative way inside of a real event, which was the construction of the gallery, which interesting now when I see it, was a very interesting moment to have this reality, two realities. If somebody knows the work of 1972, these two realities collide.
Chiko, what was it like from inside the community as we were building this all together?
Well, because Dzimbanhete is based in the community, and we, apart from being a culture, art, heritage, and whatever center, we're also a center, a meeting place for the community. We do hold gatherings every now and again, ceremonies every now and again, and the community is always part of it. And so you being obvious foreigners in the community and being our friends, everybody also wanted to be your friend, and everybody wanted to be part of what was happening. I know there was some big excitement, and there were even some grudges. Some people still hold some grudges as to how they didn't get involved fully. You know, they would have wanted to be part of what was happening. So yeah, basically the community loves what Dzimbanhete does, and this was one of the projects that they really liked. And also it came in handy as an employment creation, because people got jobs, and it's people who have families, people have people to take care of, kids to take care of, and it came in very handy as an employment creation platform. People are looking forward to more construction happening in Dzimbanhete. Of course, they do get jobs when we're building the villages, but they look forward to some continuity with regards to construction and getting jobs. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the really beautiful things about this. And this talk is called Building Space as Community and as Meeting Space. And this, it comes around full circle a little bit. We built this physical space, but essentially in its process, we are really just building threads between each other and within each other. I think that was probably that's although the building and the gallery is living well from, I cannot wait to see it again. I think even better, the relationships are what's living beyond this. And we kept going, and so this was the first exhibition, which ended up happening without a roof. While we moved
with the inside not plastered.
With the inside not plastered, and I think the outside only had the face plastered. It was like this with that corner missing. We ran out of white cement.
Exactly.
Rachel was very adamant at the time about the color of the gallery being a little bit lighter than everything else around it and kind of getting that shine. And so we were using white cement, and I had gone hunting one morning at 6 a.m. For the lightest pit sand that we could find. And we finally found it. And it ended up looking like this. And this was the roof that was built after we left. So at the time it was Rachel, myself, Yapsi Ramos, Justin Orvis-Steimer, Raphael Gilbert, Xavier Robles de Medina, all of the, let's call it foreigners left. And Chiko took over the roof making, you know, and we knew that it would happen beautifully, and it did. It really ended up being this beautifully lit structure.
And I think regarding the design of the gallery, the idea of these windows, you can go back and the roof, what's happening, of course, because it's a very sunny country. There is all day, there is a different play of the shades inside of the structure. You see circles and lines in different spaces. So it's become very virtuous during the day.
This is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So this was.
It also gets quite warm in there. I should warn you. In October, you can't get in there easily. Yeah, the sun comes in and the imagery is beautiful. The graphics are beautiful, but you can't hang in there for a while. So I think it's something we'll have to deal with again at some point to see how we can play around with more shade graphics and
still make it cool,
more like compatible with, make it cool, compatible with other artworks that are heat sensitive in a way. Yeah, but otherwise it looks beautiful all the time.
Well, and this is something where, and again, I think budgets should come quite a bit into this conversation as well, because we've our next structure is sponsored by the Goethe Institute, which is amazing. At the time of this, we were really self-funding, and we had a few supporters and patrons helping us as well. But of course, in a different world, you would take this beautiful skylight that we had and we would mechanize it and put on a remote control, and it would open up to let out all that hot air. So I think that's certainly the dream. So then as we leave in 2017, in the in-between time, the roof comes on, and we return in 2018 and have another residency. And this time we brought an Italian artist, Andrea Battaglia, a Belgian-German artist, Felix Hedelman, I think, and Ranti Bam, who is English Nigerian as well. And you see Ranti in this picture making a performance. And so the space ends up being a meeting place for art making, for exhibition, for experiment. Felix had never made sculpture before. This was his first, and it was quite successful. And
I think
we went
what
on
was
to
also, sorry,
please,
the
please.
opening, regarding the opening of the space, and I'm sure Chiko also remembered that a lot of people come from different villages around. So it was like a crowded opening of not necessarily artists. It was the community around getting involved and merge inside of the performances and the exhibition. And there was exchange to explain the artworks, which I think this was sort of the
You'll see there in the background, the gallery stands in the middle, but it's really all of the land that's important to this community that is all around us. And so you see its use with the artwork as well, and the way that the works consider their surroundings. Surviving the fire, Chiko said, but not the termites.
Yeah, that's Vox Populi. Rachel, your installation performance, what was it? Interactive piece. Yeah, we had that board that stood there for a while, and it's almost like to other people, our space is called Vox Populi. Because once you have a billboard written something, it marks that space, and Vox Populi became like, the name of the space. So for a while, this space was called Vox Populi. Like I said, it survived the veld fires and the fires that happened before we came here. But unfortunately, it didn't survive the termites. So it's down. But I still see people wearing the T-shirts, Vox Populi. People still have them. So the artwork is still going on. So well done, Rachel. It was a good piece. Yeah, it was a good, and it also came at the right time. We responded to questions a lot, people asking, what does it mean? And it became even more interesting when we told people that this is an artist who came from out there, who saw a billboard talking about the voice of the people. So she only went back to the origins of that phrase, and she brought it up in, is it Italian, Latin, and it's there now, it's an artwork. So that connection made it even more interesting to people. So you may have to ask people when you're coming and you don't know the directions, you may have to ask for Vox Populi, you still get here.
Which for those of you who don't know the context, which I think many do, many don't, this was happening in 2018, which was the first democratic elections in Zimbabwe, and it was happening right then. It was in August. The elections, I believe, were on August 4th, and we were waiting, as Vox Populi was being made, the voice of the people, we were waiting for the results of the contestation of the elections. So it's amazing to hear that the voice of the people, Vox Populi, also becomes so connected to a place that is made by the people, by everyone, and all of us working together. Chiko, maybe this is where I'll open it up, because I want to let everyone know that we have about 13 minutes left. So if there are any questions, please do put them into the chat and I will have a look and ask. And the same thing, maybe Chiko and Rachel, we can think a little bit about what really the idea of space is. You know, we've talked about theoretical space as well as physical space. Is there a change that has happened in your thinking of cultural creators, or your thinking as artists, where space changed its meaning because of these experiences that we've all had together over the last years? Super great question. Sorry, guys.
Is that directed to me or is that directed to Rachel?
I'll give it to Chiko first.
Okay, cool. I hope I remember the question well.
It wasn't a very good question. It was just an opening, really.
All right. Okay, cool. At Dzimbanhete, anyway, we've been learning a lot in terms of dealing with space and relating with space. My colleague, unfortunately, who's on the next talk, who's not on this one, should have been here, Samaita. Samaita is for the formation of Dzimbanhete. Samaita is on the strong on the culture side. He's like a griot. He's a healer. He understands spirituality, and he understands. He has more knowledge on history, the history of our people and stuff, even deeper. And that knowledge, which is knowledge that we're harnessing through the All Afrika Village, has led me to understand, or us to even more appreciate practically how people relate to space, how sometimes a space can be empty in terms of how we think and how we perceive things, but that space will be regarded as full, that it's a sacred space. So it's that idea of sacredness that that we are now appreciating more, and trying to harness and see how we can work with that even as we create art spaces. That is, be it just a structure. It's not just a structure, but it has also another meaning which is attached to it. And for that reason, we were really impressed with, there were no questions with regards to the new project that we're going to be working on, whose construction is starting, I think, over the weekend. What's the name again?
Petra and Sean, Luftwerk.
Petra, yeah. Yes, Luftwerk. The Luftwerk architecture, it resonates well with the roundness of African architecture, and it also takes from, say, the dare, the structure that we have here, which is a dome shape, which is taken from, say, the Zulu and the Khoisan architecture. But she takes it even further to make it more concrete, to make it more modern in a way. But it resonates with the spaces that we've already been constructing. And then having an outside space, which is almost like nothing, and behind it, you actually have a sitting space, which according to your taste, you then said, no, how about the sunset?
I love the magic hour. You know, I love the magic hour.
We keep laughing about that because yes, sunset does not have much of a meaning. It happens every day. And when you say so, that bringing in that meaning of sunset, when we're discussing it, then it's that other element, which is not just the structure, but is also that which can, which makes somebody feel good. Yeah. So it has been modernized, but it also has that which is not obvious. Where does it face, and how does the sun kind of, respond to where the architecture is? So things like that. So basically, we're in the same path, though you're evolving on that other side and we're evolving on this side. So I think we're still on the same path in terms of looking at spaces. Now we'll have to look at how artists use spaces and how artists create with regards to those other meanings that you get from the African architecture that's here now, and the other knowledge that it comes up with. It's something that I would like artists like, interrogating, because now we have the buildings here. And if I was going to take you through a tour, you'd hear lots of information. It would be good to see how that information now can be taken by artists, and they can, move on with it and create contemporarily with it.
And of course, for our listeners, there were quite a few conversations between Chiko with Samaita there as well, really, and Luftwerk, where there was talk about African architecture, and Luftwerk did quite a bit of research into African architecture as well. And so this building that's coming in now in 2021 is very much inspired, as well as an homage to some extent, in addition to it causing some of the friction that we also want to see, so that we continue to grow in this diverse way with the inside our eye and the outside our eye. These are a bit of the conversations we had in the last session, so please do look it up and have a look, and we're happy to send. Rachel, do you want to answer the same question, or do you want to answer the question we just got from our audience?
I will quickly reply to Monica. It's a long reply, should be, but I will do it short. I think when you go to learn about a place in the archive, there is a lot of control of what you see and who chose the imagery, the objects in the archives, who took them, especially since me and Admire was focusing on photography in relation to 1972 and photos, documentations that we found in the archive as well, some historical facts, of course. The question that raised who took these photos and who decide to frame it this way or other. And when you're there physically, when you travel and you're present, there is no filter, there is no control or framing this scenario other. You experience the space and place and people as it is. I think 1972 is exactly about this. It's the control to choose what to show and what not. 1972 showing some ideal scenario of a time and a place and relationship and family and love, which we were in control to frame and compose. And it's exactly working on this space of reality and control space. So I don't know if this has answered your question or not, but I try.
No, and there's at some point maybe with Chiko as well, we should do an entire talk on 1972, because 1972 being a performance and yet also life lived brought up a lot of things within all of us as a collective and as a community, because playing with perception is problematic when you're living within trust. And so the beauty of this project was essentially also the ability for it to be real at the same time as it also being art and a performance. And maybe we leave that one, since I don't know if everyone listening is aware of 1972, but 1972 by Rachel Monosov and Admire Kamudzengerere, a very good work that we should all see. Before we close, Chiko or Rachel, are there any parting thoughts that you would like to add in the last moments? Ooh, I think Chiko froze at the... So before we started this talk, Chiko literally said, I really hope my technology functions for the hour since we're planning in an hour. And it looks like the ancestors were with us. And we got 56 minutes from him. We'll see if he comes back.
I wonder.
He's back, I think. Yeah. Chiko? No.
This is very much exactly as Zimbabwe has always treated us. It's been actually one of those experiences where it opened itself as a community and as a culture to essentially at the beginning we were foreigners and we were strangers, and it always gave us everything that we asked for and so many things we couldn't even have hoped for in the beginning. And I know it's a funny way to bring that in, but Chiko's phone working for exactly 56 minutes to make sure that we could do this and we could be here with all of you guys is really special. And he's back.
I'm back.
Yes.
For some reason, but I think it will be for a few seconds. I don't know what had happened actually. Sorry about that.
Should we close it up or anything else, you guys?
I just hope that we all continue building spaces, not physical necessarily, hopefully not digital anymore. Physical in terms of being together. It's not have to have a walls or structures. But yeah, this year was so isolated and alienated, and we all start trying to create these digital spaces and platforms, which of course more people can join, which we benefit from. But yeah, I hope we can meet soon physically for discussion. And
well, yeah, I would like to thank everybody for being here and listening to us talk like we always do when you guys are here. And in terms of digital and this World Wide Web, I wish this platform that started much earlier in human civilization, and we had moved on to more human contact. But unfortunately, we're going the other way around. We've started with a bit of human contact. Only when we're thinking things are going on well, we're going to this very digital thing, which pulls us not so close together. But at least it's happening, and I'm happy to be seeing my friends again, and I'm happy there are other friends who connected that I haven't spoken to in a long time. And I hope, Rachel, an assignment for you when you come next time, I hope you do a series of the 1972, but now it will be 1962. And then we go to 1952, because now we have the village structures here. I'd like to see how you conceptualize the Admire and yourself in a village again.
I was thinking to go to the future. I was thinking about to take us all to finally to the futuristic Zimbabwe.
Rachel Monosov, Chikonzero Chazunguza.
This is the future now. The organic past. That's the future. Yes.
We're already in the future.
I'm here. I see you stuck, Catinca.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chiko. Thank you, Catinca.
Catinca now saying the meeting is over, right?
The meeting is over, but not
think
forever.
it's in the future.
Thank you.
August 4th in the future. August 4th is
All right,
our next
bye-bye.
encounter.
See you soon.
Session 3, hold on, you guys. Session 3 is called Connecting to Spirit in Contemporary Urban Environments. We will have with us Jonathan Dube, otherwise known as Samaita, who is Chiko's co-founder at Dzimbanhete, as well as our partner there. He is a shaman, a medicine man, a friend, a healer. He will be a principal player in the new space that we're building, which is based in music healing and sound healing. And we'll also have with us David Powers, who is a shaman from Puerto Rico, who works with Peruvian medicines, and who joined us in Zimbabwe in 2017. And the two healers came together to, bring something together that never had been brought together before, between these two traditions of ancestral healing from Zimbabwe, from Shona culture, as well as Peruvian ancestral healing. And so that will be a really interesting conversation as well. Please join us August 4th, also Wednesday, same time, same place. Thank you. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catinca. Thank you, Chiko.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.